So we've been talking kind of about how we've been with the story of David, how we've kind of been going up through First Samuel with, political triumphs and spiritual triumphs and military triumphs. And now we had David's transgression, okay, which you all talked about last week. And now it's going to be going down. We're going to have trouble in his house and then trouble in his kingdom and, down the line. So David and Bathsheba was what Kurtz calls the first blow, okay, to David's kingship. And the next one we'll be talking about happens within his family circle. And that's what we'll be talking about starting with today. But one of the things that came up, I believe, last week was the Solomon, the surviving was the second son. In what we read, it shows up as his second son. You had mentioned about in Chronicles how it calls him the fourth, son, and it says that he, everyone that I saw said he was the second son. Okay, but Chronicles kind of makes it a little unclear. Okay, he was the second son of Bathsheba, but he had other sons above him. Okay.
Right.
Okay. And
Bathsheba was not wife number one, as we
no,
know.
no.
But I think traditionally she's sort of thought of as
right.
primary wife.
Right. And
She was primary wife.
Kind of pass this around. I've highlighted the people that we're going to be talking about today, but all of this is David. David's list of kids, and they're all of these kids listed with other mothers, unnamed mothers. And then the ones that are mentioned, today are just kind of highlighted in yellow. And I've already sent this around to everyone. It was one of the emails that I sent. So you have that reference, but thought that I would just show that. And we'll be getting started with chapter 13, but before that, I was going to read Psalm, and this is the Psalm I'm reading today is Psalm 13, and just for the teachers on the list of
I saw that yesterday.
I keep track of which Psalm that was read that week, so you can go back and see, have we done this one before, or have we not done this one before? Not that any of us would remember.
Including if it were yourself that had done it before.
We did that 20 weeks ago.
But then some of these songs, they all sound so familiar. They all sound the same anyway.
Well, a good psalm is worth repeating.
That's
It is.
right.
It is. When you're in the monastery and you pray Psalms every day, the schedule they go by, it only takes 2 weeks to do all 150 or 151.
Right.
So they all know them by heart after
And knowing all these are, like I mentioned before, knowing that these are songs, songs of David. And when I think about when I was preparing my prayer for communion, the last month, I was looking at how did Jesus, or how did the Jewish people bless? Because it says Jesus blessed the bread and broke it. How did he do that? What did he say? And so even that is a song. When they have Passover, they sing, the blessings.
One of these days we're going to do our Passover. We had planned it for spring of 2020.
Yeah.
Here we are 6 years later, we still haven't done it. So I think you can answer every time that thought goes through my head. I think of you, because it was you that said, "Hey, let's do that." So
Well,
Yeah, I still have the plate that I ordered on Amazon, so I'm ready. In a year, y'all are ready to try it again.
all right, let's make a conviction that we're going to do it next year.
we're going to do it next year.
27. That's the year.
27, there we go.
That's the year. All right. So we need to start planning in December or January.
Or we start getting it on the calendar right
Yeah.
now.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
What we're going to do. So, anyway, that they are songs, and try to figure out, how would they have sung them? And And so a lot of the comments that you see in the Psalms, like there's a word Selah. And I think that was in one of the Psalms from last week. And this says there's no, and then in the footnotes, it says there's no interpretation for this, in Hebrew. But I kind of looked around and trying to figure out what that interpretation was. And it says it's a pause. That's what they think that it is. It's kind of a short pause before you move on to the next, or it's either that, or it's when the music stops and the person keeps singing, or vice versa, that type of thing.
Yeah, the last time I was lay leader, I was reading a psalm and it had Selah, and there was a note on the lay leader bulletin to talk to David about it. And that's exactly what he said. He said, don't say it, stop for a few seconds and go on.
Pause, go on. Good, well then,
Oh, yeah.
that's probably true.
Yes, that is not saying.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
That we have. So Psalm 13, and it's only 6 verses, and it's for the director of music, a song of David. How long, Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long must I wrestle with my thoughts and day after day have sorrow in my heart? How long will my enemy triumph over me? Look on me and answer, Lord my God. Give light to my eyes, or I will sleep in death, and my enemy will say, I have overcome him, and my foes will rejoice when I fall. But I trust in your unfailing love. My heart rejoices in your salvation. I will sing the Lord's praise, for he has been good to me. And when I kind of looked up Psalms associated with 2 Samuel, it said that Psalm 13 reflects the sorrow and feeling of being forgotten, and it's suitable for the brokenness of Tamar and the strange relationship between David and Absalom. So not that I see anything here that shows that. There's another psalm that we might read next week, and it's a psalm of David when he fled from his son Absalom, and that will be within the next couple of chapters on there. So it's actually has that written.
What's the song?
Psalm 3.
Psalm 3?
Mm-hmm. And it's short.
Okay, because I'm doing next week, so I might make that be my song. Okay. Thank you.
And so we're going to start.
Can I point out something that I specifically was looking for? Although I didn't think to flip it over. They had all of David's wives that had children. Michael is not on that list.
Who?
Michael, his first wife.
We had no children.
They had no children, so
She's on there.
Oh, she is?
She's on there. She just doesn't have any kids after her.
Okay, like I said, I didn't think of looking at that.
Yeah, so she sort of gets lost in all the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Michael or Mikhail?
I don't know.
It's
I just knew somebody named Mikhail.
it's spelled Michael. Okay, so if someone could read 13, 1 through 22.
I got it.
Put someone.
There. Hey, I'm here. Okay.
Oh, you're.
Don't say it.
Yes, sir.
And this just makes this whole chapter just makes me angry. But go ahead.
Okay. And it happened thereafter. Absalom, David's son, had a beautiful sister.
No. Absalom. No.
Yeah.
Absalom.
Oh, okay, got it. Okay, it's backwards on mine. In the course of time, Amon.
Yeah,
Okay,
no, he comes next. And it happened thereafter. Absalom, David's son, had a beautiful sister named Tamar, and Amnon, David's son, loved her. And Amnon was so distressed that he fell sick over Tamar, his sister, for she was a virgin, and it seemed beyond Amnon to do anything to her. And Amnon had a companion named Jonadab, son of Shimeah, brother of David, and Jonadab was a very wise man. And he said to him, why are you so poorly, prince, morning after morning? Will you not tell me? And Amnon said to him, Tamar, the sister of Absalom, my brother, I do love. And Jonadab said to him, lie in your bed and play sick, and when your father comes to see you, say to him, let Tamar, my sister, pray, come and nourish me with food, and prepare the nourishment before my eyes, so that I may see and eat from her hand. And Amnon lay down and played sick, and the king came to see him. And Amnon said to the king, let Tamar, my sister, pray, come and shape a couple of heart-shaped dumplings before my eyes, that I may take nourishment from her hand. And David sent to Tamar at home, saying, go pray to the house of Amnon your brother, and prepare nourishment for him. And Tamar went to the house of Amnon her brother, he lying down, and she took the dough and kneaded it and shaped it into hearts before his eyes, and cooked the dumplings. And she took the pan and set it before him, but he refused to eat. And Amnon said, clear out everyone around me. And everyone around him cleared out. And Amnon said to Tamar, bring the nourishment into the inner chamber, that I may take nourishment from your hand. And Tamar took the dumplings that she had made and brought them to Amnon her brother within the chamber. And she offered them to him to eat. And he seized her and said to her, come, lie with me, my sister. And she said to him, don't, my brother, don't abuse me, for it should not be done thus in Israel. Don't do this scurrilous thing. And I, where would I carry my shame? And you would be like one of the scurrilous fellows in Israel. And so speak, pray to the king, for he will not withhold me from you. And Amnon did not want to heed her voice, and he overpowered her and abused her and bedded her. And Amnon hated her with a very great hatred, for greater was the hatred with which he hated her than the love with which he had loved her. And Amnon said, get up, go. And she said to him, don't. The wrong is greater than the other you did me, to send me away now. And he did not want to heed her. And he called his lad, his attendant, and said, send this creature, pray, away from me, and bolt the door behind her. And she had an ornamented tunic, for the virgin princesses did wear such robes. And his attendant took her outside and bolted the door behind her. And Tamar put ashes on her head, and the ornamented tunic that she had on she tore. And she put her hand on her head and walked away screaming as she went. And Absalom, her brother, said to her, has Amnon your brother been with you? For now, my sister, hold your peace. He is your brother. Do not take this matter to heart. And Tamar stayed desolate in the house of Absalom, her brother. And King David had heard all these things, and he was greatly incensed. And Absalom did not speak with Amnon either evil or good, for Absalom hated Amnon for having abused Tamar, his sister.
Okay. Amnon is the son of David and Ahinoam. Okay. And he was David's firstborn, apparently. He was the first.
The very first, okay.
Firstborn. So he's the favored child. Okay. Which probably means he was spoiled rotten. Okay. And could get whatever he wanted. And he falls in lust, basically, with Tamar. And Tamar is Absalom's sister. And where do we hear about Tamar, or a woman named Tamar, before in the Bible? You remember? There were two women named Tamar in the Bible. There's really a third, which we'll talk about later, but our commentator says there were two.
Somewhere connected to Jacob?
Tamar, the Canaanite, who disguised herself as a harlot.
Yes.
In order to seduce her father-in-law, Judah. Okay, so that she might have a child. Because remember, all of her husbands kept dying, and you know, the next brother would take her in or whatever, they would die and whatever. And so she was put forth in the Bible kind of as a heroine, because if it wasn't for her, that was where the line was going to continue through. So she might conceive a child. Despite this, the Bible recognizes her as righteous. Okay. David is a distant descendant of Tamar and Judah, the founder of the tribe, which he was king of. And so her passionate blood ran in his veins, it says. So it's kind of not, but it says, is it not ironic that David traced his ancestry back to the bastard son of a foreign woman who played the harlot with her own father-in-law? You know, David is God's anointed. David is king of all Israel, you know, and in the line of the Messiah, you know. So so we have that one Tamar that's listed in the Bible, and then we have this second Tamar, and the daughter of Maacah, Maachah, and David. And so Absalom is her brother, and
Her full brother.
her full brother
Right, because Ammon is her brother also, but
It's
it's
a
different.
different-
by a different mother.
Black brother.
Right. So it goes from one Tamar who's a heroine to another Tamar that's a victim.
Sounds like a wedding in Kentucky.
How dare you?
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway.
Yeah, don't go there. You've been there.
So the Bible calls it love, you know, but it was only lust. And what would have caused him to all of a sudden he rapes this woman, and it says rape in my version, not committed her, you know, whatever.
It says violated in mine.
What would cause someone to at one time be thoroughly enamored with someone and the next moment hating them?
Guilt.
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 Or, you know, I've seen people that I've always thought, well, I got what I wanted, I don't want it anymore.
Yeah.
You know, half of the
Spoiled.
like, you know, like the pursuit is what makes them desirable. And then once you've caught them, it's like, well, it's not what I thought it would be. You're not what I thought you would be. You know, you didn't love me back. Maybe you weren't receptive. How receptive are you going to be if you're being raped? You know? So,
And I kind of wondered too, if some of that hatred might have been self-hatred that he was.
Right.
reflecting
Yeah,
on.
that's what I'm.
yeah.
Guilt that gets
Yeah. Mhm.
perverted and projected.
Well, and this Jonadab, he was his kind of mentor or advisor, or what Amon's advisor.
Yeah, what a
And he helped scheme to get it to happen.
Yeah.
You know, because he saw Amon going around heartbroken or heartsick, you know, and says, "What's wrong with you?" He says, "Well, I'm in love with my sister." He says, "Oh, well, let's get you together," you know, kind of a thing. You know, it's just turns my stomach.
The the Epstein files right here, right here in the Bible.
That's right. And then here's David, who, you know, Ammon says, "Okay, you know, I'm sick. You know, I really would like my sister to come and feed me." And he goes into detail, you know, about the bread or whatever. And you know, it says, what did David know? Kurt says, what did David know, and when did he know it? Okay. What was David's role, you know, in this? He himself is driven by his own sexual impulses, and he's a pretty much an expert at deception. Okay. And he probably understood exactly what Ammon wanted.
Yeah, they're what I would call a great family role model. You know,
You know,
good military man.
and I know that Sarah, what the version that you were reading, you know, does mention, in mine it just mentions cake or bread, fixing that. Yours did say dumplings.
Yes.
You know,
Heart-shaped.
Heart-shaped.
Heart-shaped
Did anybody else
Heart-shaped.
translation say
no,
heart-shaped?
mine didn't say
No, mine
heart
doesn't
shape.
say anything.
But there's the
But I mean, that's her translation is written by a Hebrew scholar.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the word that was used is, I'm not going to pronounce it, levabot, Lebibot. And the translation is a bread or a cake or a dumpling, but in Hebrew, it's an erotic pun. Okay. It's
so
a
that's
heart.
why.
He derived from the Hebrew word heart. Okay. Heart
So
shape.
that's
That
why.
suggests arousal and pleasure. Okay, so
Mm.
David, by Amnon saying, "Here's what I want her to do," David probably knew what was going to happen.
Okay.
Then yet near the end of what she read, it talks about David was angry when he found out.
Oh,
about all
yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But another definition is libido cakes, suggesting Amnon anticipated more than just a restoration of his health. Okay. So it suggests that David was delivering her into the hands of her rapist, and clearly David doted on his firstborn, who was heir, and was going to give him whatever he wanted. We have with Tamar here, how she uses her language and whatever to try to persuade him not to. So we have her coming up with, David wouldn't refuse you if you wanted to marry me. Before you do this, think about these things. So she's kind of using her mind, to try to dissuade Amnon from doing what she knows that he's going to do.
I think you have to think about this to some extent in a cultural context where women were just objects.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Just travel.
Which carried on for many centuries.
And is going on.
In some cultures still does.
Yeah, still does.
Still
I
does.
mean, I think most of y'all know when I worked in social services, my specialty was child sexual abuse.
Yeah.
And so it was mostly, family. It was because to work at social service, for social service to be involved, because somebody was in a caretaker role. So
One interesting
this
thing
is a classic.
one
this is
interesting thing
dynamic.
that Kirch brings up, and was that you think that David and Israel at this time is going under the laws of Moses, okay, which would be against incest in any way, because Tamar here is suggesting, David will not refuse if you would marry me, and if it was the laws of Moses in Leviticus would say, no, incest, can't do that. Can't, even your half sister, and it goes into all of these rules for who you can and cannot, marry. But one thing that Kurtz mentions is that they're thinking that those laws of Moses might not be written for 200 years from this time. They have the 10 Commandments and they have the Ark of the Covenant, but they don't have the written law yet. And they may be going more on the rules that they've heard from Canaan and Egypt, which incest is nothing. It's sometimes even applauded when you marry your sister.
Yeah, look at all those Egyptian pharaohs there.
Because of the in some cultures, then the money was passed from mother to daughter, and if you marry your sister, it stays with you. So just speculation.
And I would throw in another possible that she may have been saying that to try to buy some time
Right.
to figure out
A way to get away.
to get away.
Right.
Yeah.
And when she leaves, when he kind of throws her out, basically, then she's being thrown out. Here she is being thrown out with her virgin clothing on. The clothing is like a virgin princess, of the kingdom. And people are seeing her messed up, her things torn, dust on her hair. They know something bad's happened. So everyone's knowing what's happening here. She doesn't go to David. She goes back to her brother. And he takes her in. And she is a desolate woman living in his house undercover, as far as we know, the rest of her life.
We'll never pick up her story after this.
We still have a little bit of her story to go.
Okay.
Um,
We're not picking it up long term down the road. Okay.
any other thoughts about this section? So I'm going to try to get through this chapter. So let's, if we could read the rest of the chapter, which is 13:23 through 39. This is titled Absalom Kills Amnon. So revenge.
Or good reasons.
And let's see what see how does David respond to this? He was angry at the very end of the last passage. That's what we get.
I can read it. Okay. After 2 full years, Absalom had sheep shears at Baal Hazor, which is near Ephraim, and Absalom invited all the king's sons. Absalom came to the king and said, "Your servant has sheep shears. Will the king and his servant please go with your servant?" But the king said to Absalom, "No, my son, let us not all go, or else we will be burdensome to you." He pressed him, but he would not go, but gave him his blessing. Then Absalom said, "If not, please let my brother Amnon go with us." The king said to him, "Why should he go with you?" But Absalom pressed him until he let Amnon and all the king's sons go with him. Absalom made a feast like a king's feast. Then Absalom commanded his servants, "Watch when Amnon's heart is merry with wine. And when I say to you, 'Strike Amnon,' then kill him. Do not be afraid. Have not myself commanded you? Be courageous and valiant." So the servants of Absalom did to Amnon as Absalom had commanded. Then all the king's sons rose, and each mounted his mule and fled. While they were on the way, the report came to David that Absalom had killed all the king's sons, and not one of them was left. The king rose, tore his garments, and lay on the ground. And all his servants who were standing by tore their garments. But Jonadab, the son of David's brother Shemaiah, said, "Let not my lord suppose that they have killed all the young men, the king's sons. Amnon alone is dead. This has been determined by Absalom from the day Amnon raped his sister Tamar. Now, therefore, do not let my lord the king take it to heart, as if all the king's sons were dead, for Amnon alone is dead." But Absalom fled. When the young man who kept watch looked up, he saw many people coming from the Ornaim road by the side of the mountain. Jonadab said to the king, "See, the king's sons have come. As your servant said, so it has come about." As soon as he had finished speaking, the king's sons arrived, raised their voices and wept, and the king and all his servants also wept very bitterly. But Absalom fled and went to Talmai, son of Amminahud, the king of Geshur. David mourned for his son that day. Absalom, having fled to Geshur, stayed there 3 years, and the heart of the king went out, yearning for Absalom. for he was now consoled over the death of Amnon.
So Absalom flees to Geshur. And you know where Geshur is, this is where Geshur is, over here.
East of the Jordan.
East, right. So I can kind of pass that around. And why do you think you went there?
Because of his
Grandfather,
maternal
something, yeah.
grandfather.
Yep.
And good footnotes.
He fled to the kingdom of Geshur, far side of the north. It was a natural choice because the king of Geshur was his maternal grandfather. Okay. The grandfather of Absalom and Tamar. And their mother is, of course, the daughter of the Maacah, Maacah is the daughter of that. So it makes sense. I'm gonna go over here to my granddad's, and stay with him. Okay. So he's gonna be going over there and staying with his grandfather, it says, for 3 years. And it says it's rich in irony. David sent Amnon into a trap set by Absalom, just as he had sent Tamar into ambush by Amnon. Okay. And now Absalom, just like his father, is a fugitive. Okay. Going to another country. So it's this little time bomb being set up in David's house, of all of the different kinds of things bad things that are coming. And as a result of taking Bathsheba to start with, that's when God kind of turns, with him.
I also thought it was interesting, this Jonadab guy, he was the son of David's brother Shemiah.
Mhm.
He was the one who plotted the rape of Tamar, but he also shows up again
Yeah.
in this story where he seems to be on the inside track. He knows that the other princes were not.
Don't assume that they've killed everyone.
Yeah,
They're going to kill this first guy, but the first in line for the throne is now gone. And now who's next?
come on.
Absalom.
Oh, Absalom, rather. Sorry.
Yeah, Absalom is next in line. Okay.
Right, so it's not unusual in these dynamics that there be a family member, there be somebody that sort of plays on this side and then plays on this side, wherever they seem to be able to play the power.
Yeah.
And he's playing, yeah.
And what did God say? What did Nathan say that God said? I'm going to get your family for doing this. So we're slowly knocking the family down.
Yeah, God don't like ugly.
Yeah.
Their name is
Great TV
series. Absalom.
God don't like ugly.
He either loved his sister, okay, enough to do this, or he's playing for the power.
He wants to be
The
first.
reason I asked that, and it's a personal thing with me, Stan Wilson, our good friend. His family, very religious, very good people. They could quote any part of the Bible in their sleep. And his name was Absalom. I wonder why was he named Absalom? Why would you name your child Absalom? I guess you could say, why would you name your child David?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Run out of names, I guess.
So Absalom is trying to convince David, hey, come and send your sons over. I'm having a sheep shearing party, and come bring them out to my place. And he says, what? No, we would be a burden to you. He uses that as an excuse. And then somehow, though, he says, well, just send Amnon, just send him, but then he convinces him to send them all. Maybe David thinks, well, if I send Amnon and everyone else, they'll protect him, or there won't be danger, or whatever.
Sounds like a mafia hit.
Yeah.
Meet this guy in the restaurant.
But they call this in Hebrew the mista. It's a Hebrew word for this food and drink, the abundance of food and drink that you mentioned was, it was basically a drinking party. You know, drinking bout, get him drunk. Okay, and once he's drunk, I'm gonna say, strike him down, and then these men will strike him down. And he says, and don't be worried, because I'm the one that's gonna give this command. So only I will be
Culpable or.
responsible to my dad about what I'm doing. You won't be, in trouble. You won't have your heads or arms or whatever taken away.
That doesn't work today in a court of law.
No.
Yeah, right.
I wonder,
You're an accessory.
I wonder how well it worked back then. I mean, if
Yeah.
Absalom turns around and runs away,
Do they run with him?
I don't know. I don't know.
Well, the only thing we know is it says that all the king's sons got on their mules and left. Right away.
I would
Okay.
wanna be next, like.
Yeah, but I wouldn't have chosen a mule. I would have gone for the horse.
Yeah.
I'm like, they're king's sons. They don't have to drive.
Well, around Jerusalem, isn't it kind of hilly? You might want a mule. They have mules go down the Grand Canyon, not horses.
Right.
Yeah.
Because of their sure-footedness.
Right, but it's still a funny,
Like,
for our generation, for our kind of, to see all these guys were with.
run up the hill.
You mentioned the
Yeah,
law,
there you
there's
go.
the law, and there's the family or clan dynamics, and who cares about the law when they give this guy?
Yeah.
So, the kings, so we have the Jenabab telling people, don't worry, it's just Amnon. So he suspected, I don't know that he had any inside knowledge or whatever, because he was still in Jerusalem, and they're out somewhere outside. I think that I forget how many miles, 3 or 4 miles, I think they said, outside of where, of Jerusalem was where Absalom's place would have been. And so next week we'll start with chapter 14, and basically it'll be a story about how Absalom returns to Jerusalem and the story associated with that.
Incite a rebellion.
Right. Any other thoughts about this? Okay.
But I'm upset about the fact that I don't have family members, and then I'm like, no, you know what?
Yeah, maybe not.
Maybe it's not always a good thing.